So CWC, we have to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation about power, more specifically about what feels like a growing power struggle between The Rock and Triple H inside of WWE. Because the more interviews I watch, the more social media I scroll, the more backstage whispers I read about, the more it's starting to feel like these two are not aligned, like they are not on the same page. And that can be a massive problem if you care about the future of WWE. Now, let's start with what people are already saying. There's already this growing perception online that The Rock is trying to run the show, that The Rock is trying to run interference on the creative process that Triple H has in place right now. We're talking about a guy who clearly has lied about what happened at WrestleMania. I think that's pretty evidently clear at this point. He has publicly criticized the creative direction of WWE. He hijacked the John Cena, Cody Rhodes story, then he ghosted us when it was time for a payoff. He commented on Instagram about storytelling, even kind of mentioning Triple H and the kayfabe and saying everything's a work. And now there's a lot of fans that are literally calling Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Vince McMahon 2.0 behind the scenes. So let that sink in. We could be dealing with Vince McMahon 2.0. That's how controlling that a lot of the wrestling world thinks that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. And right now, the perception online is that Triple H is being undermined by a part-time legend who's being protected by the corporate structure. And I gotta say, I do feel for Triple H a little bit here, because it's hard to show up to work and get the job done. And if you have long-term plans, for somebody to just show up, insert themselves into what you're trying to do, and then when better things call, they disappear. But it's starting to look like Triple H is fighting the same battle that he fought 20 years ago, except now, instead of being in the ring against The Rock, it's in the boardrooms and backstage. Let's not forget what led up to this, okay? We were teased that The Rock was going to be the final boss, and he was going to steal the soul of Cody Rhodes, which is a cool concept. It was great branding. We all bought in like sheep. Then at Elimination Chamber, the unthinkable happened. It wasn't Cody Rhodes who turned heel. It was John Cena who turned heel. And then The Rock just up and vanishes, leaves us with no answers to a story that clearly we had tons of questions about. No payoff, no closure, just confusion, which honestly kind of erased an entire year of carefully built tension. Does anybody else remember when The Rock handed Cody Rhodes a watch and this was supposed to lead to a match down the road? Now we have Dwayne talking about his role is done here. His job is done in this story. And the belief that I'm seeing online right now is that The Rock just no-showed WrestleMania. The plan was for The Rock to be there. He just took his ball and went home. If you look at some of the little details, some of the little things that went on around WrestleMania, you can see that there was a blueprint for The Rock to show up. There were t-shirts in the merch store that said, "Finally, The Rock has returned to Las Vegas." That to me is pretty telling that at some point they believed Dwayne was showing up. Las Vegas had odds at -800 for The Rock to show up. Now, I know that we're talking about something that's a fixed event, but Vegas is not in the business of losing money even on prop bets. And at some point, they had some information at least that The Rock was going to make some sort of appearance. But The Rock didn't just not show up. The Rock killed the vibe. He straight up has undermined Triple H's whole new creative direction. And then I believe, or I'm starting to believe, that this could be on purpose. But the worst part of all of this to me is that The Rock is now playing damage control and saying things that just don't kind of sit well with me. The Rock claims he was part of the creative process. He wanted to turn Cody Rhodes to heel. When it didn't go that way and they turned John Cena to heel, it feels like The Rock took his ball and went home. He's admittedly said that he came back for Elimination Chamber because Ari Emanuel wanted to boost the ticket sales, so he called him in to save the day. I just don't believe that to be the case. I've said this on numerous occasions. If the ticket sales are struggling in places like Canada, or just don't hold the shows there, then that's on you, WWE. And I don't know. I never felt like The Rock really trended the ticket sales in a certain direction. It was like in the last week of the buildup, right? I'm sorry, but if you're going to sell me on you being the final boss, then somebody has to explain to me what the definition of a final boss is, because The Rock has built himself in this image to be the final bad guy. But for who? Because he's not the final bad guy now for Cody Rhodes. He's not the final bad guy for John Cena. He just bullshitted us with his 12-hour lightning entrance and his fake People's Championship belt, and the final boss has actually finally disappeared. But this is where things get a little bit interesting to me. Triple H went on Paul Rosenberg's podcast, and I quote said, "When one of the most recognizable people in the world says he wants to be a part of the show, you have to listen." Now, there are times he'll go out there and cut a promo, and we're like, what the hell did he just say? I mean, it's cool, he's here, but what the fuck was that? That's a quote from Triple H. Now tell me that doesn't sound like a guy who's trying to manage the chaos that is going on inside of his house. This absolutely feels like a house divided. You have one guy named Triple H who I do honestly believe is trying to build long-term stories. I think that last year he had a roadmap laid out that led to WrestleMania, and some of these last-minute changes we saw were to try to appease TKO and The Rock. On the other hand, you have The Rock trying to position himself as what seems to be the top guy in the TKO corporate structure. And it's starting to feel like maybe his plan is to oust Triple H and get rid of all kind of semblance of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Because don't forget, let's not forget, 30 years ago, Triple H did try to derail The Rock's rise to fame. And that type of animosity, that type of beef doesn't just disappear. They may play nice behind the scenes. They may hug and shake hands, but I don't hold it past Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to hold a grudge. And now that the tables have turned, I don't hold it past The Rock to not forget these type of things and to maybe enjoy watching Hunter sweat right now, to maybe enjoy watching Triple H have to piece together pieces of the puzzle as things around him kind of crumble. Let's call this a power struggle, right? What happens now? If Triple H somehow survives this power struggle, then we're looking forward to probably more long-term storytelling, more cohesive narratives, more focus on talent like Cody, Gunther, Bianca, Carmelo, Braun. We're probably looking at a slow transition away from nostalgia booking. But here's the issue. If The Rock wins, if The Rock comes in and asserts himself into TKO, you're going to see more celebrity, star-driven, event-based booking like Travis Scott, like Bad Bunny, or whatever his name is. You're going to see less patience. You're going to see no slow builds. It's going to be boom, boom, boom. Got to make money, got to make money. Got to see those ratings go up. There's going to be more corporate-driven storytelling. You're going to see more, I think, a mixture of Netflix promos and ESPN headlines and the product placement. I think a lot of what you're seeing is TKO influence and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Ultimately, I think if The Rock has his way and he's able to take over WWE, that WWE, in a way, becomes the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where we will go through these extreme highs and lows, and it will be all over the place, and it won't make a ton of sense, but it will drive ratings up because, to be fair, The Rock, he's a draw. And a Rock's version of WWE is probably going to draw a lot of casual fans. You'll see big names. You'll see big, high-profile marquee matches. You'll see a short-term turn for cash. But what is the cost? What ultimately is the cost? Because right now, it does feel like going into WrestleMania that creative was a scramble where we always kind of thought Triple H had it together. It feels like Triple H was cleaning up the mess that The Rock left. The Rock came in, scrambled up, messed up his room, and then Triple H is having to put little pieces back that he could salvage in the build to WrestleMania. And I think that's why a lot of people have noticed that maybe WrestleMania didn't feel like the WrestleMania of the past. I think definitely fans have noticed that something is off and that the product did suffer a little bit this year. And the problem is, we don't know if this is all hanging on by a thread. We don't know the corporate structure. We don't know who's in charge. We get told that The Rock has a certain amount of shares. We get talked about Ari Emanuel. We get talked about Nick Khan. We get talked about Triple H. But I don't know, as far as the actual power structure of WWE, who has the most pull where. I don't know if Triple H has been given the keys to drive the car creatively. I don't know if Triple H kind of runs the day-to-day, but when The Rock decides to insert himself in, he can kind of interject into a storyline. I don't know where TKO actually sits when it comes to, does TKO override The Rock and that's what pissed him off? Did TKO side with The Rock and seemingly it became a power struggle between Triple H? I don't always think that Nick Khan looks like he loves Triple H. There's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself, right now, which side of the street do you stand on when it comes to WWE management? Do you trust Triple H, the guy who built NXT, the guy who seemingly rebuilt Cody Rhodes as a babyface, and he gave us a real shot at modern long-term storytelling? Or do you trust The Rock, the legend, the megastar, the business machine, who might be more concerned about the spotlight than the script, but he's going to get big names and give you big moments? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the Discord. I don't have the answers. I don't know who I side with right now. I'm still trying to decide where I should align myself. Which side of the street am I supposed to stand on? If this is rap beef, I don't know. Am I Kendrick? Am I a Kendrick guy? Am I a Drake guy? Am I a 50 Cent guy? A Ja Rule guy? I don't know which side of the street I'm standing on right now. I'm still trying to piece together these facts, but I want to know what you guys think. Because if we're pretending everything is fine, then this thing is going to collapse under the weight of two egos. And that, to me, is ultimately the worst thing that can happen to WWE. If WrestleMania 41 was a warning shot, WrestleMania 42 could easily be a war.